Enjoy.
Hey everybody. So a big thanks for having us out here. I'm here. You heard from my Minister Nate Glubish this morning. And I wanted to build on the energy there. But just before I do, just with respect to the last speaker about how quickly the models move, during that presentation, Opus 4.8 came out from Claude. So it gives you kind of an idea of how quickly things move. So I thought it was just very appropriate. So today I'm going to talk all about the people side that we're doing, of how we're investing in Alberta, and part of our journey over the last 14 months since we kicked off our AI Maximalist program, and why it's been such a drive for us to be able to embrace artificial intelligence. And the question was raised at the fireside chat this morning around, what is Alberta's risk tolerance? And I think we have a healthy risk tolerance, but I also think that we're not immune to being concerned about risk. One thing that I think sets us apart in Alberta is the fact that we think perhaps the riskiest thing is to do nothing at all around artificial intelligence. And when we look at the threats that we're facing, some of which I'll talk about in the next slide, is if we do nothing, that is the riskiest thing we can possibly do at this point. So what are some of the things that we're addressing? We have over 1,400 systems. We have 800 new requests in our pipeline of new systems, new technologies, and we have 3,800 code repositories of this code that goes back 45, 50 years. And when we look at that demand, and when we look at how much technical debt that is, we have no choice but to address these challenges with artificial intelligence. As you heard from Minister Glubish, it is 130 years life cycle rate that we are pre-AI. And there's no way that our ministry partners are going to be that patient with me in the role to give me a 130-year window. So I'm going to make the best use of the time that they give us. But really, the four pieces are the technical debt. Our systems are aging out. It feels like exponentially fast. The shift towards SaaS left a huge lack of support for traditional COTS products. There's growing cyber threats. We have increasing demand from both our internal stakeholders as well as from the public. People want a better digital experience. They demand a better digital experience from their government. And then finally, we're all facing a deficit. We're all facing these challenges. And so we have to do truly more with less. And the shift here is not just around digitization, because if we look at the growth, we started with Government 1.0. I was still using the carbon copy papers when I joined government as a student in 2005. We would rip the carbon copy paper off. We would do all of our HR approvals on carbon copy. We would do all of our moves, all of our contracts, and then going in through digital. And now what we're really thinking of is Government 3.0, where we have agentic real-time solutions, greater accountability, greater transparency, and there's a little tag there at the top of that says agents as future customers, which means how people consume government services. It will not be about going to a website and following a page tree down to find a new app. It'll be going to their agent and saying, make my business compliant with this government. And their agent will be going off and filing their taxes and filing their compliance and doing applications. And more we have to anticipate what that looks like in a digital space, but also from a consumer, customer-centric standpoint. And that's Government 3.0, and that's what we're getting ready for as we go along on this journey. And as you've heard about today, it's absolutely crucial to have your management aligned to enable staff. If you want to set the culture that people feel enabled to go and do something a little bit bold, a little bit creative, well, in Alberta, I'm happy to say that we have that environment. And it's one of those times when you get the hockey team all comes together and they go and they win a cup one year and then they don't even get to the playoffs, the finals the next year. Well, the team comes together at a certain point in time, and in Alberta, we have that team. We have the team from Premier Smith, all the way through Cabinet, through our clerk, Dale McPhee, through myself, my ADMs, and my executive directors. And you need that alignment. You need that engagement for staff to feel that they're truly enabled. We're not just sending them out to try something and then point the finger if something doesn't work. They're not all going to work. Not all of the ideas are going to pan out. But if you have the alignment, and if you are singing from the same song sheet, as it were, You have the accountability, the transparency, the insight, the strategy, all the way down. And then you create that environment. And I'm very pleased to say that that is one of the critical success factors. And when we're thinking about AI enablement and AI empowerment, there's really some layers to this. So the first layer I want to talk about is access. When I joined just a year and a half ago, we had 350 people doing a Microsoft Copilot pilot. Pilot's a fun thing to say. Now, that was fine. Now we have 23,000 people with enterprise licenses and who are being trained up through our AI Academy. And we already have put more than 2,000 people through our internal training. And I'm happy to say that we've had over 10,000 people now, as of this week, use our AlbertaAIAcademy.com platform as well. So that's not just public servants, it's people from all around the world. It's 10,000 unique users using that platform. And we've really started to now invest in the next wave, which is people who are highly proficient at these coding agents, these orchestrated agents, the claws, those kind of things. Those are the real transformation engines, if you will. And we're very much still on that journey. So we've come tremendously far in the last 14 to 16 months. And we launched this AI Maximalist program. Then we opened the Academy back in September. And we launched our most advanced course in January. And as you heard about, and as I'll speak about in a minute, we had our hackathon in Ottawa just a month ago. And here we are in ACON, or AICon. And the path is just getting started for us. We're really just taking off, and we don't want to go on that journey alone. We want to go with all of you. And one of the most critical ways is through the AI Academy. So you heard Minister speak about it this morning, and you've heard me mention it as well. We've laid this out as a self-guided pathway forward where people can absorb these materials. We break them down into these conceptual days. So imagine a day of learning. You can take it at your own speed. We also have facilitated courses. We've had participation from every jurisdiction in Canada digitally who've joined to participate in that. Level 1 teaches you prompting, how to verify, then trust AI. And you heard the last speaker talk about the fact that truly only a subject matter expert can vet the veracity. Well, we teach people strategies on how to understand and how to build trust and how to evaluate what their system is saying. Level 2, we advance through automation, and then level 3, we're now going into the ecosystem, the enterprise building using agents. And what's key for us is the tools will change. Like I just mentioned in the opening, the models and the tools are changing by the minute, but the fundamentals don't change. We're teaching people how to be data savvy. We're teaching people how to go through systems of trust, how to transform materials, large corpuses, whether they be regulations or legislation or curriculum, content for a province. These are thousands upon thousands of pages of content. How do you process it? How do you work with it? Like, these fundamentals won't transform, because you truly can't have trustworthy artificial intelligence unless you have the data that you and it agree on to be the most important aspects of it. So we're moving through those pieces, and then that inoculates us a little bit against the fear of the tools changing, and because we have the fundamentals, right? It's like learning a skill and being able to apply it. We're also inviting staff to think a little bit differently here. And we just yesterday, we finished our level 3 course. And I was taught by myself, so I spent 6 days with the class, jumped on an airplane, came here. We had ADMs in the class. We had 3 of my 5 ADMs participating as students, all the way down through our EDs, directors, managers, staff, students, interns. Everyone was participating. Everyone's an equal player. And we invited them to have a bit of fun with this. We said, we want you to set aside what you think your job title is. And we want to gamify this. And so we created a leaderboard, and we created challenges, and we set up a big boss at the end of the game, which was our cybersecurity agent that you had to get through. And we said, just forget about your job title. Could you imagine a different title? Could you be a craftsperson who's building the next generation of tools? Could you be a wizard who is designing systems of orchestration and systems of, not just building an app, but re-architecting our entire data system? Something large, something impactful at the level of government. Or could you be a warrior persona where you're going in and really slaying one particular problem on behalf of a ministry? So we had everybody go through, and in the beginning, most people signed up and they said that they thought they were craftspeople and wizards. By the end of it, we had most people saying, I think I'm a warrior. And that was really interesting. And so they played along, but the point was, it's not job titles. It's not about positions. This is something we all have to engage in. And it means a tremendous amount to know that our minister is so engaged in this, and that staff can look around and see the deputy is here working with us, the ADMs, the EDs, everyone's here all together. This is truly a team working cohesively. And I have to say, it's the most startup culture experience I've ever had in my 21 years of government has been through this AI Academy. Folks were literally, just as students would do, submitting their homework at 11:59 p.m. last night and putting their applications in. And they weren't just building a report or a dashboard. We're training them how to build out-of-the-box, enterprise-grade applications and solutions that pass 100% of our cybersecurity checks and our compliance and our standards. And that means that right from the very beginning, they're completely compliant and they're layering in AI capability into that space. That is a huge game changer for us. It means we're delivering immediate value that we can trust and we can verify. Out of the box, we teach them how to use an AI harness that has 700 plus different checks and balances in it. And built into it, there are 4 agents who are their cybersecurity agents that audit their code every single step of the way. By the time they're moving on to release into the development environment, that's kind of your first step to work out the bugs, work out the kinks. They're going in with a completely clean bill of health from a cybersecurity look and feel, accessibility standpoint from the very first step. Normally we leave that stuff to the end, and then we go and we sweat the cyber team by saying, hey, I got to ship this app in 4 days. Can you give me my authority to operate? Can you do your pen test? And then they get very frustrated. Well, we brought cyber into the tent back in January, and we said, build the toughest, most rigorous AI agent you can imagine. It would do everything you always wished the developers would do, and we baked it in. And then we had the cyber team yesterday online with all of their tools attempting to knock down every single homework piece that was brought on board. And the top students cleared, again, they finished the application, which was, again, an impressive app, but with an exceedingly clear bill of health. So 0 known cyber vulnerabilities, 0 known accessibility challenges, full compliance with the government standard. That's not been done. Human developers, to talk about the challenge that we have, we benchmarked ourselves before we started on this journey, and only 40% of our applications met all of our standards, all of our look and feel, all of our accessibility controls on their very first release. Now we have 100% compliance because AI has helped us to change the game. And we need tools to do that. So the model is one thing. They're great. These are game-changing foundational models that we're using. But you can't sit there and get this done with Copilot. You can't sit there and get this done with ChatGPT, just chatting with it. Chat is the farthest thing from our experience when we're using this. And in fact, we have the whole stack. So we have a architecture security process that we call Pronghorn. That designs the application before we even touch code. We have an entire architecture, the specs, the prototypes, the project plans, all the requirements built out. We have Nexus, which is our orchestration environment. Yesterday, we had 338 agents running in that environment, and we could look at every single one of them, and we could monitor what those agents were touching, what they were doing. And in fact, over 6 days, those 100 students in the Level 3 class produced over 560 different apps, and they all met all of our standards. So that's what we do in Nexus. We also brought our project management into a tool that we call Velocity. And Velocity allows the AI to be a first-class project manager as it's working, full observability, and penalties for slipping back. You miss a step, you slide back, you lose points. And so it's a whole new agile poker. We also have the AI harness, which is the skills, the tools, the technologies, and standards that staff have access to. And of course, we've got those agents, which we call RED, which is doing active adversarial pen testing on your app, even in your local dev environment, which is sort of unheard of for us. And then we have Blue, which is your wise coach, which is telling you how to not get in trouble. It's on your side, and it's helping you fix and ameliorate issues as you go through. And I use this diagram. It's a bit of a periodic table, and in fact, this is even a summarization of it, around how we get to enterprise quality at vibe coding speed. And because there's 101 different controls that we start out of the gate that are already solved and embedded in these AI tools and templates that we're giving people. So all of your logging and all of your standards and all of your controls, your hardening, your authentication, your network, your secrets, your crypto, your deployments, that works out of the box. If you leave that to the end, if you leave it to AI to try to figure that out after the fact, you're in trouble. It's going to take you months to take your vibe-coded idea and make it enterprise ready. If you start enterprise ready and have AI fill in, it's like a paint by number. I can't paint to save my life, but I can pick the color and put it in the box and pick the other color and put it in the box. AI is exceedingly good at that. So you have to set it up for success. And then I mentioned the cybersecurity. So that's the boss at the end. To graduate the level 3, we told the people it's going to be tough. To graduate, you had to get past this red agent. And in fact, right now, it's running against all of the submissions that came through. So all those 500 apps are getting assessed and graded at the very final step, and we'll see how it pans out. So why do this? Why invest in people, and how do we measure the success? Well, Minister shared a couple of stories about staff using these tools, but also some of the opportunities for savings. And so you see the example there, the infrastructure project. We also have something called Trace, which is helping us analyze information at scale and at speed, looking at all public spend. Well, we can do for $2,000, which would have cost us just a year ago, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we can also look at doing complex things, mapping media. We had 5,000 news releases in this government current term. And we were able to map them, geographically place every single news release across the province of Alberta in 90 minutes with full interactivity. And again, this is work not only that would be difficult to do without AI, we would not have done it. These are things that we wouldn't spend the time to do. So you'll hear very soon from Minister Glubish on his Substack what we found through that hackathon that we had in Ottawa recently, the agency event where we started to look at public funding. So there's a bit of a sneak peek in the billions of dollars of faulty data floating around how difficult it is to report on that. That analysis we did for under $2,000 of compute using AI, and it read 2.4 million government disclosures on spending and surfaced every single issue that we found, and there's going to be some really exciting pieces there. And one of the biggest things that we're excited about is really technical debt. We all want to engage and do the new thing, do the fun and exciting thing and take on these new challenges, but we are mired down in our code, in our data, in our infrastructure, and every time we go to take a step forward, we're held back because we've got some application that we need to integrate into that's siloed with 30 years old code. And so we didn't sit on the sidelines. We built a tool that's an agentic tool called Get Insights. And we deployed it out. We had 50 agents reading across our entire technical estate. And these agents were able to read 466 million lines of code and mapped every function of government and found every cyber issues we weren't aware of that we were able to patch. But they also found some other interesting stuff. A third of our repositories had no documentation, and that's no problem. While it was checking, it wrote documentation for every single one. Some of them were not in our CMDB. That's okay. It read every single dependency and itemized it so that we have a clear insight as to every dependency we have in the system. These are things, again, humans wouldn't do. I couldn't pay a consultant enough money to come in and do this for us because it exceeds the capacity, whereas agents can do this in just 20 hours. And now we're bundling it all together. We have a series of white papers that we're releasing with the same posture as our code called the Velocity White Papers. And we're layering in the step-by-step architecture and then all of the open source code that we're using for this. So our agent harnesses and our templates and our skill files, this is all part of the bigger picture. So when you see somebody like me come to a conference and they have some cool ideas, well, you can take that now, you can systematize it into an agent harness and then release that for other people to try. So I don't want to just tell you about what we're doing, I want to give you all the tools to do that as well. And that's why we're here. So thank you very much. We're here to share, but we're also here to learn and deeply appreciate the opportunity today. Thank you.